Welcome back to SoulNet, friends. We often associate romantic love and passion with the days of our youth. But is it possible to find the same love and passion later in life? What makes it different from our earlier experiences with intimacy and partnership? Well, today on the pod, we have Debbie Collins with us, and we are going to explore some of these questions and more. Let's dive in.
Deb, we really wanted you to come on and connect with us and our listeners about your love story.
Oh, that makes me want to cry.
I know, we'll all cry here.
As many of our listeners know, you were 50 and actually turning 51 this year. And you found love, this beloved, beautiful love later in life. So we were hoping you would talk to us about that. And the topic of our episode is finding love at 50.
I feel so honored to be invited to talk about my beautiful love story because I'll tell you, I didn't think I would ever find that beautiful love story. I kissed a ton of yucky frogs before I found my guy. And I had to wait till I was 50 to find it. But it was so worth the wait. Holy moly, was it worth the wait. He is incredible, but I did have to work really hard to love myself before I found that one, that spectacular one that fit me in every which way. And I had to do a lot of healing and a lot of counseling and a lot of work to find out why I wasn't letting the right man into my life. And I learned pretty quickly that it was, I didn't love myself enough, and I needed to, uncover what was holding me back. And guess what was holding me back?
You.
What?
Childhood wounds. Big effing surprises, right?
Yeah.
Childhood wounds.
Deb.
Yeah. I hear a lot from women, particularly maybe 40 plus, where they go into this despair of they're never going to meet the partner. Like, because I'm older now, I don't look the same. I'm not as attractive to people anymore. And so there's this, it's never going to happen for me. Did you go into a lot of the work on yourself with that intention to hopefully find a partner? Or did you just go in wanting to heal those parts of yourself first?
I think I went in definitely wanting to find a partner, but actually I just wanted to find happiness because I knew something was wrong. Like, I knew something was missing, and I didn't know where to start. And I dated a ton, and I met some wonderful men, and always found something wrong with them. So lots of stuff had to happen to me for me to do the work to find it. And that work lasted a very long time. Like, I did everything and anything you could imagine. Like, Megan would laugh at me. She'd be like, "What are you doing this week?" Like, it was hilarious. And I loved it. It was a journey of self-discovery and learning how to be independent and live on my own. But during that discovery, I discovered who I was and what was important to me. So when I found love at 50, the person I chose was exactly who I wanted and needed and connected with. So I couldn't dream of a better person that I would spend the rest of my life with. We love the same things. It's like I'm dating my best friend and we love everything.
Great. Well, you're engaged.
Oh my God. Yeah. Sorry.
Because
I'm engaged.
We have to say
I'm engaged. Yeah.
Glenn proposed in Paris. So I think we just want to put a little shout out to Glenn for that.
So because of all the healing, I got exactly what I wanted and the person that elevates my life in every way I want. And I don't care that I had to wait till 50. I would rather have it now than, when I was searching in my 20s and 30s. So I feel really blessed.
So you really let him in, but you've known him a long time. I think this is an interesting point for our listeners because you are describing this really brave and courageous journey of self-discovery and healing that you went on. And I would love for you to share a couple of the highlight moments that you think were really helpful for you to get to know yourself and get to love yourself. But also you knew him through that time. Is it fair to say that when you really had done some really healing and, you know, really got to that point of loving yourself that you looked like it was right in front of you, like he was right in front of you?
Yeah, I think, yes, we've known each other for, oh my gosh, like 20 years.
Wow.
And so the love of my life was right in front
Right
of
under
me.
your nose.
Of course, right under my nose. He knew this whole time that we would be together. I was clueless. I had no idea.
He was patient.
I think the journey of self-discovery was definitely part of it, but we all know that healing takes a really long time. So, you know, it's not a month or 2 months or a year. It's ongoing. And I think, you know, the cumulative effect of the healing allowed me to see him when it was time. And we're a COVID couple. So when the world shut down and I couldn't see him anymore, that was the only person I wanted to see.
You know, it's interesting how you shared that you guys were best friends first and lovers after. Often our journey in the 20s and 30s is the other way around. And then there's kind of like, you know, failing forward, learning through that. And similar to you, I had that, like, I was friends for a long time with Dario before, you know, I took the risk for the next step. Not as long as yours, but I can relate. I can relate to, like, it took me time to fall in love, but then the falling in love was so deep and so, for lack of a better word, mature. I don't know if you discovered that.
That's exactly the word that comes to mind for me too. But I want to say on that note, I read recently one of my favorite organizational psychologists. He's a prof at Wharton. And his name is Adam Grant. You guys probably know him. He's the author and the podcast host of Rethink. And he's just amazing, Adam Grant. But anyway, he recently quoted, and it makes me think that just on what you guys were saying, in everyday life, it's better to be valued than needed. But when I hear you guys talk about your mature love relationships, I think that it strikes me as what you're finding later in life are people whom you value and they value you. You don't need them for anything. You just love them. You just value what it is that they bring to your life. You don't need them to be somebody, and they don't need you to be somebody that you aren't. So I love this idea that, you know, in this stage, maybe both in friendships and loving relationships, that we find people whom we value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Glenn has just electrified my life, and
love that.
and my life was wonderful without him, but it was great. I had great friends and great job and great family, but he has elevated my life, and it's not because I need it, it's because I value him. Like, we have no pressure to get married or have children.
Yeah, there's no timeline on things.
Or you know, career. You know, we fell because of each other, not because of the stage of life we are in, and that pressure is unbelievable. Like, no pressure. We're like, it's so that mature love allows you to have no pressure and just focus on each other, but it also allows you to self-discovery and do growth together. And you're also at the same stage, because mature love, you are connected to somebody who's at the same time, like they're at the same healing journey as you. Whereas when you meet when you're 30, a lot of couples, like, their growth journey is very different. Like, some are, you know, one goes here and one goes a different direction. Whereas when you're meeting at 50, you're meeting at where you're at, and it's usually at a similar spot. So you're both injecting a growth that even increases that self-discovery in different ways. And I loved that.
I love hearing how there's just a space for this maturity of your development versus the pressure of roles that we often find ourselves in 20s and 30s. And the pressure of those roles kind of has us fall into habits and kind of ways of being that doesn't facilitate that kind of deep connection the way that I'm hearing you have, at Love at 50.
Yeah. It's very freeing in a relationship because relationships are hard. Like I had no idea how hard they were until you get into a wonderful relationship, and it takes work. You have to, what's that saying? You've got to weed your garden every single day.
Weed and
you
water.
can't stop doing. Yeah, you can't stop doing it or else it gets stagnant. So having a healthy relationship is work. And when you don't pile on, we got to get married and we got to have kids and we got to buy a house and we got to get ahead and how's our RSPs doing, you're able to eliminate that extra pressure, which for me was helpful. My capacity for stress is not there.
When you talked about, how you were doing some of the work to get to this place where you could receive this love from Glenn, was that something that you were aptly kind of going through too and experiencing, or was it kind of different for you?
I definitely was actively doing it. I don't think there was one thing that I did that was the aha moment of it. For me, unfortunately, it took me a lot of things that was a cumulative effect. I did some really deep counseling. I did biofeedback. I really tried to listen to what was happening internally for me. So I did a lot of meditation. I even did like a 10-day silent retreat.
Nice.
I went on this very cool naked retreat in Big Sur.
Did you say, hold up. Did you say naked retreat, Deb?
I did. Oh my God.
It was to elaborate.
It was unbelievable. It was in Big Sur in Esalen. And I went to go see, I went to go see a speaker, and it was hosted at Esalen, and the grounds were clothing optional. And of course I walked in and I was like, oh my goodness, I've never done something like this. But of course I bared it all and off I went and had the time of my life.
That's amazing.
So
That's awesome.
So wait, are you recommending Dana should do that?
100%.
So fun.
100. Yeah, it was incredible.
Okay. So there's something liberating about going to a naked, maybe Esalen too, because it's so renowned. Totally. And so there's like a safety there too. But from silent retreats to nudie retreats. Oh, Dana, are you inspired?
Well, I'm not really inspired for the naked retreat. I feel pretty okay naked, but I understand the vulnerability of the exercise, but I actually don't like.
I think with everything I did, it just helped me feel comfortable with who I was and comfortable with being single while all my friends were getting married or married and having kids. That was my biggest obstacle, because I was different than all my friends. All my friends were taking a very different path. And so my journey was self-discovery of who I was and finding happiness in the minority of what people, I was doing something nobody was doing. All of you have kids and all of you are married or have been married. And I don't have children and I wasn't married. And I felt I felt very judged, or I judged myself. What was wrong with me? And so because of that, I went on this unbelievable experience that only single, unmarried people with no kids can do, right? So I think all those things just allowed me to be comfortable with who I was. And then, of course, finding a partner who thought everything I did was so acceptable and unbelievable. So I was like, oh, great.
Deb, you struck a chord. I think that really resonates with everybody and with our listeners, in that when we're on a path or a journey where we feel like we're different, it feels like everyone's got that story. Because I remember after my divorce, kind of being financially obliterated, feeling like I was the only one that was going through recreating myself and building a home for myself and my kids. And yet going through that adversity, we find ourselves, I found my strength I didn't know I had by building a home for myself and my kids. I've never built a home before. You found, the connection you didn't think was possible through this relationship and deepened in that intimacy. Just such a beautiful theme. Yeah. I really want to honor your journey in that. And I have a question for you. Love making at 50. How much fun is there in the experimentation, in the letting go of expectations or old habits or roles? I would love to hear your discoveries.
I didn't prepare for that question.
Really?
Well, try.
Wait, how about is it hot? Is it hot?
It's super hot. I mean, honestly, it is super hot. When we first started dating, transition from best friend to lover was a little different in the beginning. But once we got our groove on, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And because we have such incredible communication, we're able to say, hey, let's talk about everything. Yeah. And we did that in the bedroom as well, which was so unbelievable, which I'd never done before. Yeah. And being able to say exactly what you want and what's not working and what is working. And
Amen.
He is so romantic. Like, Glenn is the most romantic person I've ever met. So, and he brings that romance into the bedroom as well, which makes it really, really lovely.
Amazing.
Also, the communication piece. So that's really important to having good sex.
Yeah.
Right. And probably always. But that's such a great point. Thank you for raising that, because I feel like that's something that even for someone like me who has been married for a while, it's a good reminder, right? To always communicate, what it is that you might need or want in that moment, right? And not be afraid to ask your partner. And also, I want to go back to the tenderness and patience. Is that also hot? I feel like that's hot.
I think it's so hot, but I love that. I mean, I haven't had someone treat me the way Glenn treats me and the tenderness that he shows. So I find it so hot. The subtle things that he does on a daily basis just builds up that momentum. And it's like foreplay on a daily basis because of the tenderness.
Mm-hmm. One of my beautiful love stories, I was lucky to have a partner like that too, that always had these really small gestures that kept us connected. We were actually also in a long distance relationship. But our communication had to be on point because we weren't together all the time. So he led that. I'm a good communicator as it is. He absolutely leveled that up and would do all of those little things to keep us really close. And actually, I noticed from a passion perspective too, that friendship and the bond that came together because we really got to know each other in between these weekends of passion and stuff like that. In the 3 weeks between our next visit, we were still communicating and discovering each other. So that friendship, I think, that you and Glenn have is huge. And I know I've heard both Megan and Eilina reference your partners as well as being like your best friends. And I think that is such a beautiful bond that can lend itself for exceptional sex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And we've also talked about safety. And I think sometimes I know for me in my intimate relationship, safety is really important as well. So I cannot kind of fully surrender to anything or any moment. Or any orgasmic experience without feeling safe. Yeah. So a trusted friendship, I think, is part of that. Deb, Eilina's going to put you in the hot seat for a minute.
iCalendar or old school agenda?
iCalendar.
Okay.
Yeah, technology all the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're a total tech woman. That's right. Lip gloss or chapstick?
Oh, I have been working very hard at lip gloss, very hard, because I was doing chapstick for years. As I'm in my 50th years, I'm trying to make more of an effort. So lip gloss.
Yoga or Pilates or bar or dancing to 80s music?
I used to be all over yoga, but I've transitioned to Jane Fonda dancing aerobics, which I'm loving.
Love it. Everything comes back again.
Date night in or date night out?
Oh, date night in 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Because Glenn cooks and then he makes cocktails and yeah, absolutely.
And then.
Totally. Wow, I'm so inspired. Deb, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your love story. It's so inspiring. I just love that date night in, romance, communication, vulnerability, fun, all these good things to remember. Vulnerability, doing the work. You brought up so many good points for us.
I'm going to go and Google naked Elise Eastland adventures.
Well, I'm so grateful that you guys invited me on to share my love story. Never, ever, ever thought that would ever come out of my mouth. Share my love story.
Wow, isn't that incredible?
Yeah. I know. I remember when he proposed to me just after my 50th birthday in Paris. Wow. And I was like, I should be on the cover of Time magazine. I'm getting proposed to at 50.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
So yes.
But it's so normal.
With the headline, it's about fucking time.
It's about time. But he was so worth the wait.
Thanks for listening, friends. If you liked what you heard today on the pod, please do us a favor and follow, like, and share us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you have questions or comments or a topic you'd like us to cover, you can email us at soulnetsisters@gmail.com, as well as find us on Instagram under Soulnet Podcast.